And welcome everyone to a brand new Trolling with Logic. This week we're just doing a follow-up and reaction and sort of review to the what we endured last week, the What the Bleep Do We Do alleged documentary. And with me this week it's pretty much the same team, but I'll introduce them anyway. Marty, how's it going?
I'm doing okay.
Ziller, how are you doing?
Cool.
And Kitch.
I'm still in shock of what I just witnessed last week.
I say, well, we've had a good week. We've gone away. We've gotten very, very drunk. Probably the hangovers are now cleared. So I think we can just, kind of maybe sit back, just reflect on what we thought of that film instead of reacting to it. So I think what we'll do here, I think, is we'll start off by talking about what was actually good in this film, the good parts. I know you're probably not, but I think it's fair just to do that before we get into the meat of what we'll probably be discussing. So I'll just go right out. Marty, I'll start with you. If you remember what the good things about this film were.
It ended. No. Well, I mean, it's not much, really.
No, nothing at all.
It's just a bunch of bullshit.
There's no redeeming qualities to this whatsoever in your view.
Maybe if you look at it as a movie and the whole the narrative part, but I didn't even think that was good.
Yeah. So that's that's Marty's very quick.
No, I thought it was shit.
Yeah. Zilla.
Oh God. Even at the time, I suppose the effects at the time it came out were probably fun to look at, but
probably like for
that's about it.
For probably like a low budget documentary at the time, like the CGI and the special effects and the animations they used was pretty incredible. They pulled that off on what I think would have been a meager budget.
Yeah, but that's about it. And there wasn't a lot to the style, but considering there was nothing to the substance, that's about all I can say.
Yeah. And Kitch.
It was I suppose if I were to give it something, it had Barry Kripke before, he was Barry in The Big Bang Theory. That's got to be something, right?
Yeah.
And also, it was technically a movie, so it did get the fact that it was. Although everything in the movie was crap.
Yeah.
It was actually a movie.
Yeah. So.
And I also must add, I also have to add, and it was not Batman and Robin.
But yeah.
Or The Room.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same. At the production values were quite decent on it. It was quite well presented that way. But I think we can sort of go through the movie in pieces. Like, I'll try and summarize how it actually goes. Right, we'll focus on the story part because, this kind of became a mess. It started off kind of. You've got this deaf girl. She's a photographer, and she's not doing much at the start, but then she comes home after a day of work and she's got this crazy roommate, this stereotype new age roommate. And then the deaf girl, she sleeps in one day at work. She's late for work. She misses the subway train where in the subway they have this weird art presentation going on, and she gets a bit of fortune cookie wisdom by Quark from Star Trek. And it's, by the way, he's only in it. He only has one line, isn't it? It's just for one line, he says.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
Probably the creepiest line.
Yeah. So she's in the subway. She gets an angry call from her boss. Get your ass into work. She walks to work. She stops at a basketball court where. Yeah. Was that before the subway or is that after?
I think it was before.
That's before.
Yeah, she gets a lesson. It's an entanglement that kid was on about.
He was on about everything quantum mechanics doesn't actually say.
Yeah. So she gets a lecture by a little kid who's basically a mini Morpheus. He actually rips off some of Morpheus's lines. She gets into work. Her boss is angry with her. He orders her to go photograph a wedding when she won't do weddings because we get in a flashback scene her ex-husband cheated on her and even eyed up in the most obvious way, eyed up a woman while they were getting married.
Yeah.
I think the only way he could
This
have,
In the
movie
most
is
unsubtle way ever.
the only
this
way
movie
he
is
could
not
have made
subtle
it
at all.
the only way he could have made it blatantly more obvious he was into another woman is if he just ran across the church floor and just started shagging the woman on the church floor, I think. And then she goes to this wedding, and then I have no idea I'll just describe what happens because I don't know what any of it meant. They start going on about the hippocampus and your brain chemistry. We get some animations of brain chemicals getting drunk. She gets drunk. She wakes up the next day, and then she starts drawing on herself, has a bath, and then it ends there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of seems to end quite abruptly. It drags on and on and on and on and on and on and on for hours, and then suddenly stops, and you're left going, "What?"
Yeah, because I thought, like, once after she'd drawn on herself, you would see her, she would get into her life, and her life would just be fantastic from there on in.
Yeah, but the whole film it seemed like the guy who wrote it had ADHD because he's constantly going from thing to thing, unrelated, going, this thing, no, this thing, no, this thing. And then suddenly after 2 hours goes, I'm bored now.
Yeah,
and stops.
Like I say, my theory is that narrative part was made separately and the guy who made it ran out of money, and then the makers of the New Age guys said, we'll complete the film for you, and they inserted all the New Age crap over it. That's my theory. I know how it came about.
Yeah, that actually makes sense.
It's as good a theory as any.
It does seem at times that the actual narrative just doesn't seem to match up. It seems like it's almost after the thought that they got these interviews and tried to make them fit.
Right.
Yeah,
pretty
but
much.
Marty, do you have any idea what was going on at the end?
No, really, I don't. I think that in the theatrical version, it ends with her throwing away her medicine because she doesn't need it anymore because she can quantum herself out of depression or whatever.
Something about that. Yeah.
But
And that was missing in the version we watched.
I think in the
And
version,
I don't know.
I think in our version, the kind of the drug use that she's on, it's pharmaceuticals, but it's not really expanded upon. It's not, you see her taking it once or twice, but
Yeah.
they never actually say, like, oh, she's hooked on this stuff and it's dangerous. You just see her once or twice taking some pills and that's it.
I just remembered the neurons, the synapses when they were showing how they fire. It was just like little bolts of electricity. No, the synapses don't fire like that. That's not how they work.
Yeah,
They
and it
release
was,
neurotransmitters. I'm sorry, I'm still raging over it. I was raging over it in work today in lunch. I was discussing this film at work, and then I just broke down into another rage.
Yeah, and it was the hippocampus they were showing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember you said it doesn't behave like that in any way, shape, or form.
I'm pretty sure the hippocampus doesn't pump. It's not like a heart.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure if it did, it would probably do.
And if it's pumped at the rate they were saying it would, you'd be in very serious problem.
What's a pumping? Like, I know the heart pumps blood. What does the hippocampus pump? Like, don't say it.
Yeah.
Energy.
Quantum.
So, Marty, we'll go to the bit you'll probably be able to maybe explain the basketball scene. What was going on there?
Oh, yeah, well, basically it was saying that, everything scales up from quantum mechanics. So a basketball is everywhere at once, essentially.
Oh.
Yeah, was it trying to
Presentation of
describe superposition?
quantum
but then
mechanics
suggest
works.
There's a macro equivalent to
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just so wrong.
Yeah. It's like you say, a problem a lot of the new age quantum will have is they hear these analogies and then they take the analogies to be real. And is that what was kind of going on there? And I think we've lost Marty there.
But yeah,
He's broken down into a silent rage.
He's already broken.
he's
down.
gibbering in the corner and
Yeah.
catatonic. But no, I think that is what they seem to be doing, is the very, very classic, let's take an analogy and then let's forget it's an analogy and run with it like it's real. Like the one in Voyager where they're talking about being stuck in the black hole,
Horizon.
and
the
they
event
use the
horizon.
analogy of the being underneath some ice and looking up back at the ice
And then just
seeing a
smashing through
reflection.
it.
Yeah, smashing through it, and they go, yeah, let's forget that's an analogy and let's pretend that's actually how reality works, so that we can get out of this plot problem.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to work. Like SF Debris said, I can draw you a circle around your car of how far you can drive if you've got so much petrol in your car, and then I can rub out a bit of that circle. That doesn't mean you can now drive through the circle because that bit's not there anymore.
Okay, I'm back. Apparently, I'm having tech issues.
Tech. We need to quantum our tech a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah.
We're quite not entangled yet.
But like I say, like we were saying there before you got cut off, Marty, a big problem with, and you've obviously got more experience of this than anyone else, but they hear these analogies and then they take the analogies to be that's how it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously you've got experience with Jordan. He does this all the time.
Yeah.
But
He does.
yeah.
With his cosmic vacuum cleaners for black holes, and
Yeah.
the way he didn't understand that two-dimensional representations of a gravity well wasn't people saying space is two-dimensional.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's just one other thing to go back to the narrative of the film. At the very end, when the main character's drawing on herself, I remember that she's standing in her bathroom mirror, she's got a pencil, and we don't know why she's drawing on herself, but she's drawing some fancy pattern. I always remember, because she's standing in her underwear, and her flatmate walks in, and kind of looks at her, then looks down, gives her the look, and I thought for a second, is this going to be a lesbian scene that comes out of nowhere? Because I thought it wouldn't be any more random than, but then, yeah, she just asks, "Oh, can I have some and she actually says non-fluoride toothpaste and walks away.
Yeah.
And I just thought, because for a second there, it was all building up to them having a lesbian makeout, but like I said,
Well, even that wouldn't have saved the movie, though.
yeah. But it was just something I know. And she specifically asks for non-fluoride toothpaste in her own house.
Yeah.
I think that's just their kind of bit of more conspiracy shite that they're forcing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Ziller, I'll get you to. But at the end, when you broke down when they raped Flatland.
Oh, fucking hell, yeah. Quantum. Was it Professor Quantum raped geometry? I couldn't take it.
So, give us a little background on the original Flatland and what that is, because I tried to explain it in the car. I think I got it a bit wrong, but I'll let you explain it because you're a fan of the original.
Yeah, the original book was written. It was actually a critique of Victorian kind of values, and in much the same way that Escher kind of made mathematical paintings out of a bit of curiosity, but liked the art. This was somebody who'd written a book about critiquing these values and had decided to throw a little bit of mathematical kind of weirdness into it. So he decided that he'd invent this universe where it was a two-dimensional mathematical space, and then explain how a three-dimensional or a creature that experiences a three-dimensional space would interact with a creature that experiences a two-dimensional space. And it's quite good. It's quite fun to kind of think of how, how you can try and picture dimensional spaces larger than the one you experience. So it's a fun little book for that kind of geometry.
Yep, and then it's been made into a few films, but the most notable is the 2007 it was made, wasn't it? The CGI movie.
Yeah, the animation.
But it's not a film of the book. It's more, like you said, an interpretation of the book.
Yeah, it is really good. And it does keep some of the book's kind of themes still within it. It's still very true to the book in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and then so then is it Professor Quantum or Captain Quantum? I can't remember.
I think it's Professor Quantum, yeah.
So then Professor Quantum's version of it.
Well, I think I just kind of went very catatonic because he started some utter rubbish and talking about himself being in a higher dimension, and that just makes absolutely no mathematical sense in any way.
No.
There's no such thing as being in a higher dimension. You can experience a three-dimensional world, and somebody else can experience a two-dimensional world. You're not in a higher dimension. You still exist within their universe. It's just that your universe is slightly larger as a mathematical space.
And for everyone here, I've got a good analogy. Like, whatever town you're in, you can't walk out in the street and visualize the layout of the town. But if you go up in a helicopter, look down, you can see the street layout. You're not suddenly acquiring this, you haven't moved up. You've just got a different perception of it.
Yeah, and it was one thing that, well, one way you can put it is that there were points on this flat universe, or in this flat universe, that were coplanar with points within Professor Quantum's own body. So parts of him are still within that two-dimensional space. So it's not that he exists in a higher dimension. He's still existing in that universe. It's just that he also exists in a dimensional space of 3 rather than just 2. So it's difficult to try and explain to people what dimensions are and not fall into the trap of sounding like the quantum woo bullshit interpretation that people try and use to the term dimension to mean.
Yeah.
And that's what they're taking advantage of.
Yeah, and they basically ran with the whole idea that a dimension is this woo kind of new universe, other universe. It's not not another universe. It's just
a property of this universe.
We can still picture our universe being within a 4-dimensional space. That doesn't mean that 4-dimensional space is another universe. So it just pisses me off.
Or a really simple analogy, it's a term like a fish out of water. Like a fish can't comprehend, living in a dry space. You can take the fish out to experience, but it doesn't suddenly become, breathing fresh air. And that's what they implied with that. Once you move up to this dimension, you gain these extra abilities.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah. It's a crude, but I know someone's going to run with that analogy now. I mean, that's how these guys would work. They would hear that analogy and think, "Oh, you could take a fish out of water and it'll start breathing fresh air in a few minutes because it can perceive fresh air suddenly."
Please don't do that. That is a cruelty to fish.
Yes. And I suppose while we're on Captain Quantum or Professor Quantum, his first bit, which was the double slit experiment.
Mm-hmm.
So did he get that right at all?
Well,
yeah.
Pretty much until he started talking about how particles have, that they have intentions, and that's just
But the observer
garbage. Yeah.
Yeah, probably, as this analysis. So, Marty, what is the observer effect broken down?
Well, it's basically that any observation requires interaction.
Yeah.
We don't think about it that way because when we look at something, we don't affect it. But what's actually going on is that photons are being sent from a light source, hitting an object, and then being reflected into our eyes. Those photons actually interact with the object. If we're talking about just in case where we're looking at something.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's another kind of observation, it wouldn't work the same way. But whenever you're gonna look at a quantum scale object, just to oversimplify it, you'd have to send some kind of, well, for example, a photon. You have to send something to bounce off it, and then it comes back and we measure it. Now, when we bounce a photon off a very tiny particle, it's gonna move away. We have altered the thing we're measuring. We have changed it. By observing it, we have affected it.
Yeah.
And in quantum mechanics, this is simply a fundamental fact about how you make measurements. You cannot measure something without affecting it.
Yeah,
That's the oversimplified explanation. I know I'm butchering it, but I'm trying to keep it really simple here.
I think there's one bit of Futurama which kind of elaborates on that. I don't know if you've seen it. When they go to the horse races and the photo finish.
No.
And the professor's horse was in the photo finish and he loses, but he complains that you changed the result by measuring it.
Yeah.
That's not fair. You changed the result by measuring it.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to you.
But the way this becomes relevant when we're talking about the double slit experiment is that if you're not observing it, then the wave function is not collapsed.
Yeah.
But by measuring it, you're collapsing the wave function, and that changes the behavior of the electrons he used as an example. It doesn't have to be electrons specifically, but it goes from behaving like a wave to behaving like a particle.
Yep, and so the New Agers, they take this and they interpret it as being you can change things just by looking at them.
Yes, and they also add this completely unjustified idea that it's your state of mind that determines the state it collapses into. So that basically, if you're happy, it collapses into something you want. And if you're pissed off, it collapses into something you don't want, or something like that.
Yeah.
So basically, you can choose how events unfold.
Yeah.
And there's just no... there is no way you could even interpret that. You know, there is no way you could make that misinterpretation.
Yeah.
It has to be just intentional. They're making shit up. There's no way they can actually believe this, the people who come up with this stuff.
Yeah, and because that tied into the bit earlier we talked about on the subway station.
Yeah.
And I think it's been addressed many, many times. What's the guy's name again? Oh, something...
Emoto, is it?
Emoto.
Yeah, because it's actually quite fitting with what he's talking about. But
yeah, this idea that your state of mind will affect how water molecules freeze, and that's just complete bullshit. There was no controls whatsoever, and oh yeah, the guy is not even a scientist. He didn't use any kind of scientific methodology. And I did some quick research about this guy, and it for one of my videos, and it turns out that his degree is completely fake.
Yeah.
He got it from a diploma mill. I went and checked out the university within quotation marks, homepage, and it says it's accredited by this institution, blah blah blah. I don't remember what it was called, but I look up that, and it's a guy with a desk in Calcutta, and it has nothing to do. I went to the Indian government's homepage and everything, and looked up. Okay, how do I check out whether an Indian university is accredited? And guess what? You can. And I looked up a list of all accredited universities in India, and it's not on the. So it's just it's a diploma mill.
Yeah.
But his whole premise was really bizarre anyway, because it was just arbitrary. It was like, well, if you write the word love on the water, it turns into this beautiful crystal. Well, well, that's pure subjectivity, isn't it? That's you telling me that you think that's a beautiful crystal, and therefore it's to do with love. What if I thought that crystal looked ugly?
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a blind test or a blind study. It was actually a case of, look, this is the crystal that was frozen that it says love on, and this was the one that was frozen that says here's what you can go do with yourself. Which do you think looks better? I mean, come on, at least do a blind study, or preferably a double blind. James Randi was in touch with him and said, look, do this in a double blind test and I'll give you $1 million. And he never got back to him, of course.
That coveted prize remains yet unclaimed.
Yeah. Because that's, I'm trying to remember, it was something that was in the theatrical cut. What was it now? It was that thing, it was about the crime in LA.
Yeah.
That wasn't in this version, but it led into this thing where they said the positive thinking stopped all crime in some part of LA one day.
Yeah, and I as I recall, that was actually not even... it's not even that they found a correlation. That was completely made up, because that was actually one of the worst periods ever in terms of crime, as I recall. Don't quote me on that, but I seem to remember reading that.
Yeah, I can't remember what the exact. I think go and listen to the League of Nerds. I think they looked into that a bit more, but there was something like that. It was just really bizarre. They said that all this positive thinking stopped crime in LA for one day. Don't ask me, but as we're on this bit, I suppose, Marty, as we'd been geeks, we have to talk about Quarkbane in this film.
Yeah.
Do you think he knew what this film was about when he made it? Because he's only got one line.
I have no idea.
Or
I know
think
he
it's
has.
perfectly possible that he didn't, and this was another Mulgrew thing. And I'm going to start calling these instances Mulgrews.
Yeah.
Because
it's perfectly possible. I don't know if he's into shit like that. I know that Jeffrey Combs is into a lot of this.
Going to correct you there. It's a common mistake, but it's just that there is a new age guy called Jeffrey Combs. It's not the same guy at all.
Really?
Yep. I've looked this up, and a lot of people make this mistake. But Jeffrey Combs... There's Jeffrey Combs, the actor, and there's Jeffrey Combs, the new age. Oh. It's just two people with the same name. Because I was trying to find this out, and I looked it up. Again, I'm pretty sure that's what the case is. But it was just, I'm of the opinion that Armin Shimmerman, who plays Quark, that not that he didn't know anything about the film at all, but he was told it was going to be like a sci-fi or something, or he wasn't told it was going to be this documentary about New Age and physics. And everybody's silent.
I think that's possible.
Or there was just a paycheck.
And because it's quite funny, the actress that's in this, like you pointed out, Ziller, she's actually quite a reasonably famous actress in her own right, the main girl. Her name, Marlee Matlin is her name. and she's actually won an Oscar. Dick, I can't remember what film, but she's the only deaf person to win an Oscar. And she's quite an accomplished. But the weird thing is, I was looking around her thing, and she doesn't comment on this film at all. Which
I don't think you would if you'd been in it.
yeah, which leads me, I'm very much of the opinion that the actors in the narrative, like it was two different films that were being made here.
Yeah.
I'm really of that, because it does seem like that.
Yeah,
I'm back, by the way.
Yeah, all right.
It's my connection is acting up like mad today.
No, I was just commenting there that the main girl in this film, I've gone through her pages and all that, and although she mentions she was in this film, she doesn't talk about, she doesn't give interviews or discuss it very much. And I said that's what kind of leads me to believe that these were two different films almost. Like, well, they got the actors, but they didn't really inform them all this new age stuff was going to be tacked onto it. At the very least, something like that. So.
They didn't know it was going to be some documentary. They thought it was just going to be some
They
weird
maybe just
film.
took it as a quick paycheck when they were offered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, just as a reminder, another bit, the wedding itself, and those two kids that walk in with their Terminator vision.
Oh yeah, the gay guys.
Yeah, are they gay?
They are totally gay.
Are they? All right. It's like again to rip off the League of Nerds. Sorry, they were saying like it's two 20-year-old teenagers that walk in, and they said they're scanning all the women and men and that for who they're quite obviously as well. They said the acting, and someone pointed this out that they said it was a Polish wedding, but someone pointed out all the stuff. That somehow they figured this out, but the writing on the invitations and that was Czech. So, but I don't know. I'll go to any other bits that really gnawed on you guys. Kitch, we haven't heard from you in a while.
I can't even. There's just so much wrong in that movie. I think everything just got horrifically butchered.
Yeah.
The physics, the biology, the acting.
Well, to be fair, I think the acting was okay for what it was. Like, the acting just wasn't, apart from the roommate character.
Oh, she was so annoying.
Well, I don't
like
know if that was bad acting. It could very well have been that
I thought it was
she was supposed to act that way.
Yeah, I found it to be highly accurate acting.
Yeah.
It was like myself, Marty, and Ziller agreed in the late 90s, we all knew a girl at high school or college that was basically just like that.
Yeah, I think just science alone just tainted everything in this film for me. That I just can't see anything good in it. Apart from the ending, of course, which was my favorite, the credits. Especially at the end.
Oh, it's even the bit when you revealed that woman was a 35,000-year-old god.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, that's the.
Yeah.
I mean, considering that was the jump the shark moment by this movie's standard.
Yeah.
Oh no, I thought that was a wonderful reveal. It was, and now we're going to show you just how credible all the people we've been interviewing aren't.
But the thing was, yourself and Kitch didn't believe myself and Martin, and we kept saying, "This isn't the stupid part yet. This isn't the stupid part." And you kept saying, "What the hell is the stupid part then?"
This is God, right? Okay, is jumping the shark, nuking the fridge, and now being the god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's taking it above and beyond because she actually believes she's a god.
Yeah.
She actually
I
believes
don't think so.
Okay, people believe she is a god. Sorry.
I think, when she's interviewed about it, she starts to say she doesn't think she's channeling the god. She flips between it a lot. you know, if she's speaking
Consistent.
to her audience, she makes out that she is the god, but when it's an outsider speaking to her, she just says, "Oh, I'm just channeling them." And what the hell was with her pipe? I think there's many a sarcastic answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know if
Crack.
she's. Yeah, I don't know if she's on crack or if she's insane, or if she's a con artist.
Maybe all of the above.
Yeah, all of the above. That's possible.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was meth.
Yeah.
But it's like,
But it was meth.
you know, it's like it was pointed out, she kept saying you can make yourself look like anything and be whatever. And I say, so why haven't you transformed yourself into a, you know, I don't know, a Megan Fox lookalike then? Why are you still looking like that?
Yeah, it's
Well, it's like Deepak Chopra says you can stop aging if you just. Yeah.
You think
No,
about
the best way he
Yeah,
puts
just
it is
think happy
he
thoughts
hasn't
and you
aged
can
at
stop
all,
aging.
has he?
Yeah, he hasn't aged at all.
Yeah, he says you can prevent, or you can reverse, or you can stop metabolizing time. The metabolizing time, that just makes no fucking sense.
That's true, Deepakis.
Yeah.
you
And
unless you're somehow eating the fabric of space and time,
Yeah.
which
I suppose I'll ask you, what was the funniest laugh out loud moment? I know what mine was.
I can't think of a specific
For
one.
me, it was when they gave their definition of what sex was.
I don't even remember that.
I think we all laughed. And the thing is, I can't really, it was so stupid what they said. Oh, Ziller, it was stupid, but I can't remember the exact words now.
No, not word for word.
It was something to do with talking to your higher spirit. That's what sex was for, to connect with your higher spiritual self.
Yeah.
Oh, they're talking about onking.
Exactly, that's what it made me think of, was Jordan and his anking. Onking.
And yeah, I suppose.
I just thought they were going to bring up chakras at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose we'll go on like the people they interviewed. One of them is it Albert. He's a proper scientist, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't remember the names of all of them. But,
yeah,
there was one guy who was or is
and he's been very
a
vocal.
proper physicist who basically got tricked into being in the movie.
Yeah, because I think he's been very vocal since it was released about how he was misrepresented.
I think the best drinking game there was spot the obvious edit.
Yes.
Whenever they cut to him, you'd be pissed by the end of the first half hour.
Because there was one part where he says, one option is this. He explains it, and then they cut away from him, and they never come back to hear what the second one was.
Yeah.
Which is just atrocious editing, and yeah, sometimes...
Not even trying to hide it.
Yeah, because that was the other thing with the editing of the interviews. You know, if you know editing techniques, sometimes they'll cut away to some other footage while an obvious edit's in process, but they didn't do that here.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like the usual cast of like Stuart Hamerov. I don't know, there's not much you can really say about that hasn't been said already. Because
he just has no idea what he's talking about.
He is really good at his chosen profession, isn't he? He's a neurologist.
As I understand it, yes, but he's I don't know why he's bringing quantum mechanics into it.
Who else was there?
He just doesn't understand that at all, even by the standards that humans can understand quantum mechanics. I mean, no one really understands it. It's just.
But Marty, he's a scientist, therefore he understands all science.
Yeah,
That'd
it's
be
something
science.
like that.
It's like the old comic. It's like
He
the
has a
old,
doctorate in science.
Yeah.
And what's the other guy? He's well known in New Age. Is it Wolf? His surname is.
Yeah, Fred Allen Wolf.
Yeah, because the thing with Hamerov is at least he's somewhat pro-science, whereas Wolf is he's just totally anti-science, isn't he?
Yeah, he's basically he does have a legit PhD, in physics.
Oh, there he goes.
But he has completely left academia.
Yeah. I've just got a...
He's done a Sheldrake.
No, he's an independent physicist.
Yeah, right.
Whatever that is.
That's what it's called. That's when you don't submit to peer review because conspiracy.
Yeah, well, I'd say like Stuart Hameroff, he is somewhat pro-science, whereas Fred Wolf, he's totally, even states it that he's against the scientific method.
He said something about how the way we do science is dead or something like that. He says that in the movie, and no, it's more alive than ever.
Yeah,
more science is being published every year with every passing year.
And who else was in? There was the very boring Irish guy, and I can't even remember what he contributed.
The sober Irish guy.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name, but he's a theologian, so he has absolutely nothing sensible to say anyway.
But that was the thing, he was so boring you can't even remember what he spoke about. The others you can remember, like at least some. All I can remember is the cuts between them where he seems to age 10 years in between them.
Yeah.
Because he's so, like on one second he's very well dressed and well groomed, and the next he's just totally dishevelled, like he's been out in the wilds for a few years.
Yeah.
And who else? John Hagelin. You've heard of him, Marty?
Yeah.
Is he another?
He's another one of those guys who used to be a legit physicist.
Yeah.
But again, left academia, and he's been doing this meditation, transcendent bullshit thing for a while, and I think he's a bit nuts. He tried to run for president, apparently.
Yeah, for the Natural Law Party.
Yeah.
Oh joy!
And that would, he.
The ones who do yogic flying or something.
Oh, you remember that?
Yeah, and absolutely nothing he has done has anything to do with what he's talking about. So his scientific credentials are completely irrelevant to the subject of the movie.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Ziller, do you remember that election broadcast then?
Oh God, yeah, that was one of the funniest things I'd ever seen.
Yeah, for those who don't know, here in the UK, like I said, when a party enters the election, I think it's kind of broadcast law that they have to allow it used to be they could allow all parties standing in so many seats. They allowed them to have like one broadcast, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that.
So they changed it because under the rules it would mean you'd have to let, some of the far right, some of the really, well, I think this was what changed it, but the Natural Law Party got to make a broadcast one year. I remember them saying like all the positive thoughts would change Britain, and then they had like the weather map of the UK with all these people in meditation poses with wavy lines coming off them, and I just remember it says it looks like they've all just farted or something like that. And then it got really. They said how they planned to do this was through yogic flying.
Yeah.
And they showed, and then it cut to scenes of people, because I remember that got ripped the piss out of here for. It was the highlight of this election campaign.
For anybody who doesn't know what yogic flying consists of, basically, they were on what looked like a bouncy castle.
Isn't that what Dalsin does in Street Fighter?
Might be, yeah. It looks very similar. You have to cross your legs in such a way that I think you put your feet almost behind your backside, or it looks something weird like that. And then you fling yourself on your crossed legs across the room. Yeah. And it looks absolutely hilarious. And for some, well, basically you do that and it solves whatever problem you're thinking of at the time because reasons.
Yeah.
That was incredibly stupid.
Yeah, but it was because of these laws we had in the UK about elections and they managed to get on, and they managed to get a nationwide broadcast of this, and it had, I think, the complete opposite effect they were hoping for, because they were just ridiculed.
Yeah.
I can
I can understand
imagine.
why.
I'm pretty sure it's going to be on YouTube somewhere, this broadcast, because, I mean, you might not remember much about political broadcasts, but because that's what they're
This-
called here in the UK, party political broadcasts. It's like these 5-minute adverts around election time for each of the parties, just saying, "Oh, here's our policies. This blah blah blah. Vote for us." And then this one came on one night, and I think because it was around supper time, wasn't it? I remember it previewed Ziller. Ziller.
I think we broke Ziller.
Yeah, but anyway, like I said, they would show them after the.
Sorry, I cut off because I just
Yeah.
found it on YouTube.
I was just going to say the usual thing for these broadcasters, they show them before the 6 o'clock news and then before the 10 o'clock news.
Yeah.
Because that's how I remember watching it. I was watching. We just finished our dinner and my dad turned the TV on for the news and we were all just sat there in stunned silence watching this. But look it up, Natural Law Party political broadcast, and I'm sure it's on YouTube. I'll be surprised if it's not, because it's...
No, it's definitely on there because I've just found it. It's Natural Law Party 1994 election broadcast.
Yeah,
Yogic flying.
It's astounding to say the least, this thing.
Yeah.
I have to watch it.
Yeah. Anyway, back on topic. It was just when you said yogic flying, I thought, oh, you've seen that one, Zilla.
Yeah, I remember it well.
So yeah, I think and like I said, the one other guy that I can remember was the Indian guy, and all I can say that was, well, in every New Age thing, they have to have a token Indian.
Yeah. Discount Deepak Chopra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it's just, you go to any New Age blog, any New Age podcast, they will always have a token Indian person there to speak about it. Yep, everyone agrees there. So I think I don't know, how shall we need a rating system for these films we're going to look at? So I don't.
Wow.
I just wanted to mention one last thing that we'd missed out. Was they were going on. They never mentioned it by name, but one of the things they were talking about was the parapsychological experiments from Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Lab.
Oh yeah.
And they were talking about the ones with the random number generators and the clicks, where they'd record a tape with clicks and then put it in a sealed vault and then bring it out, and somebody had to listen to it and try and will there to be more clicks on one ear than there are on the other, and it would magically make it that way. It was just ridiculous. If anybody wants to learn more about how utterly shit the pair lab is, just you can start off by looking at Wikipedia and just seeing the strange claims they made. Like, they reckon that they had spikes in a random number generator that corresponded to 9/11. Yeah.
Yeah, is it a case of really shitty controls, or is it legitimate cherry picking, or what is it?
Actually, no, I think it's mostly confirmation bias. It's statistical insignificance being touted as if it's statistically significant.
Yeah.
And you're only counting the hits that you find, even though they're really shitty small hits that are lost in a sea of noise of hits that aren't hits because they're misses. It's just ridiculous.
Yep. So to wrap up, so I don't know what kind of rating system we can have for this, because Miles has got there before us and come up with a good one. So.
And how does that work then?
He rates it on. How does he rate? You'll know because you're a big fan. Yeah, there's 4 different factors.
On the
how angry it made.
Conspiracy. Yeah. The conspiracy, bad science, and how dangerous it is.
And how angry it made him.
That was the old one. Well, before he brought in the danger.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd like to sum it up in one.
Yep.
But I don't know relative to what,
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Relative to Batman and Robin.
Well, I mean, I suppose we can say for, the dangerous information in this film, I don't think there's that much that folk will come away with that's actually really dangerous.
Well, some of the water stuff kind of gets close
Yeah.
to the ideas.
there's
It's
nothing
it's basically homeopathy. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't outright state homeopathy. But there's nothing here that's going to make folks stop taking their meds or.
Well, that in the theatrical version, that's one of the messages.
All right. Oh yeah, I forgot
That you don't need medicine because you can just will yourself into better health.
So it is fairly dangerous, shall we say?
But
Yeah.
Are we gonna go by the theoretical
But
version or
science
this version?
denial is always dangerous.
Yeah. So I don't know what scale shall we use for the danger of a film. I don't know.
I have no idea. We should have thought this through beforehand.
No, we can think of something surely.
How about in terms of
We really need the Jeopardy music right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't think of something.
how about in terms of I don't know, Russian roulette?
Russian roulette.
The number of bullets in the gun.
Yeah, this is
there's
4
a good
bullets
one.
in
The
a
amount
gun.
of bullets in the gun. I would put this at 3 bullets out of 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is some danger in it, kind of the coming off your meds, but overall, I wouldn't say it's that harmful the rest of the film.
No.
So I'd go with 2 bullets, I would say.
Yeah, I'd go with 2. Low enough. It's not as bad as some of the stuff we're about to do. And
Yeah,
we got ourselves.
that's definitely true. But I see the danger in science denial in general, misrepresenting science, and getting people to not be interested in real science.
Yeah.
So I may not look at it in terms of danger to the individual, but in terms of danger to society in the long run. I'm gonna give this 4.
So that's 4 Ziller, how many bullets?
I'm gonna go for 3.
Okay, so it's fairly consistent there. As for the amount of bad science, I did come up with something while you guys were talking. We can rate this in terms of Voyager episodes.
Oh.
Threshold.
So threshold is like full-on bad science, whereas at the other end, I don't know what's a good science episode of Voyager. There's no such thing, is there?
I think you're just gonna have to find the one that has the
In fact, we'll
least
just go
amount
for
of
Star
science
Trek in
it.
general, shall we? So, like, a good science episode would be something like Deep Space Nine Pale Moonlight, where the science is really good. So I'm going for a threshold.
I don't know that there is much. Usually, when Star Trek has a good science episodes, it's because there's no science in it.
Yeah, so that's why we're going with this.
Yeah, okay. Well, this is definitely threshold.
Zilla, are you going for a threshold as well?
I'm definitely going for threshold.
Kitch won't understand this scale, funnily enough.
But I'll agree. If threshold's the top, then I'll go with the top.
You can't beat threshold.
And for rage, I don't know what.
Kitch, that has people traveling so fast that they evolve into salamanders and have sex and give birth to. What is it? They give birth to young salamanders that grow up in hours.
Wow, that kind of butchered all the laws of
it
theories of science that I know.
It butchers every field of science. And math as well.
Then.
It butchers that. It butchers Star Trek continuity, and it butchers its own continuity within the episode.
Yeah.
It's that bad.
Oh, okay. Then 2 thresholds.
Really?
And
Wow.
it refers to infinite velocity as, so that's really fast.
Okay.
I just hate the way it refers to infinite velocity as an actual number almost.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
So for the rage, I think the scale we can use is we can go with famous internet memes for this. So so I'm going for angry German kid. I think the and the next one down will be leave Brittany alone, I think. And you can come up we'll let the audience decide what the other scales till totally calm. In fact, totally calm will be Afro Ninja, I think.
I was a little above Afro Ninja. I was like, except for that one particular part, but pretty Afro. I was bored almost. I was pretty much bored watching this movie.
In fact, no, I think lowest one will be Sneezing Panda, then an Afro Ninja, then Chocolate Rain, Leave Brittany Alone, and at the top, Angry German Kid. I think that works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm going for an Angry German Kid on this.
I'm gonna say Leave Brittany Alone. Because it's the same shit over and over again. There's really nothing that stands out as pissing me off. In that way.
Ziller?
For most of it, I'd almost go for Chocolate Rain kind of style, but then. It does mention dimension in the Wu way, and that irritates me more than anything in the world. So, can I have a Chocolate Rain point dramatic squirrel? Does that work?
Yep. Maybe a dramatic squirrel can be like a half point.
Yeah.
So I think
don't butcher geometry and call yourself fucking Professor Quantum. That's all I'm saying.
And so for overall rating,
we forgot one. We need to for a conspiracy theory as well. Conspiracy.
No, we don't want to rip
off.
We're already ripping off Miles, so we're not going
to. I think we should just have one rating. Sum it all up.
Yeah, just a one-word rating.
Threshold.
Yeah. I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, are you guys all happy with that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Delayed reaction, but
yeah.
I was nodding, then I realised, mate, I'm not on camera.
Yes. You keep doing that, kid. You keep performing to a camera that's not actually getting shown.
I can't help it. I need to be seen. I'm a visual guy. I communicate through expressions. Not unlike an ape.
So, I don't know, any final thoughts or any news you guys have or announcements?
I'm going to be concentrating more on blogging in the near future.
All right.
So, apart from that...
Marty?
No, I've got nothing right now. I'll probably make another Woo of Woo pretty soon.
And Ziller, I do believe, like I said, we're working on stuff right now, the two of us. Remember?
Yeah.
Okay, you do. He was like,
for reminding me.
No, but myself and Ziller, we are working on this new channel project that's going to be out in a few months. We're not going to give dates because we just know with real life it's impossible to keep them. But yeah, we're going to script material together, doing debunkings of stuff. And it's when I invest in a good quality camera and green screen, we can start doing it. It's going to be a bit of performance involved. So we're not going to say much else because we don't want to...
Do I have to perform?
Yes. And perform you fucking will, I'll tell you that.
Jesus Christ.
No, but yeah, like I said, we're going to be scripting material together on this channel, and hopefully you'll all enjoy it. It'll be something a little different, I think.
Yeah, cool.
And with that, I think we shall let it go. And like we said, if there are any conspiracy or woo movies, documentaries you want us to look at, just leave them in the comment section with just one note. I know we'll get requests for creationist stuff, but I think for at least this year we'd like to just get away from creationism a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, Marty.
it's been done to death. It still needs to be done, but yeah,
It's saturated right now, I feel like.
Yeah, we'd like to do some other stuff
Yeah,
right now.
like I said, we're just going, and I don't think we're bringing anything new that hasn't been heard. So
No, that's the really boring part about creationism. It's just the same claims over and over again. We can try to find new ways to debunk it. The challenge is to find new funny ways to do it.
Yeah.
There's no real...
And I really...
You really can't say anything new.
Yeah, every way of debunking it's also pretty much been done on YouTube now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's been serious ones, there's been angry ones, there's been funny ones. You know, we've had just commentary, we've had performances and all that. And I just can't see what we can bring to it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's I think it's after doing all those intelligent design movies, we've just kind of... It's the same thing over and over and over, and you kind of just lose the passion for that after a while. So we'd like to diverge into other things. So anything else you'd like us to address, and we'll happily go into it. The principle...
And if you want to join me in demanding that we shove Foster Gamble's idiocy up his own arse, vote Thrive.
Yes, I think we'll definitely do Thrive, because that's quite amusing. But also, like I keep saying, we do have our eyes set on the principle. We're just waiting for it to come out on DVD. And yes, we will have Cool Hard Logic. He's agreed in... He has, no pun, but he's agreed in principle to join us for doing that commentary. And hopefully he'll do the review with us as well. Which everyone's going to love
really
that.
hope so.
I think everyone will enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be glorious.
So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be analysing all this junk information, I think. That's the way, kind of the old show. It just, the format we tried I think everyone enjoyed it, but getting it together just proved to be more hassle than we thought. So,
yeah.
So, this is the new format, and it's a lot easier for us to do. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll be back soon. Like I say, leave your suggestions for any films you want to do, and any final messages, guys?
No.
Don't watch this movie.
Yes. All right. Goodbye, and take care, everyone.
Bye.
Did all their new age crap over it. That's my theory. I know how it came about.
Yeah, that actually makes sense.
It's as good a theory as any.
You know, it does seem at times that the actual narrative just doesn't seem to match up. It seems like it's almost after the thought that they got these interviews and tried to make them fit.
Right.
Yeah, but much. Marty, do you have any idea what was going on at the end?
No, really, I don't. I think that in the theatrical version, it ends with her throwing away her medicine because she doesn't need it anymore because she can quantum herself out of depression or whatever.
Something about that. Yeah.
But
and that was missing in the version we watched. And I don't know.
I think in our version, the kind of the drug use that she's on, it's pharmaceuticals, but it's not really expanded upon. It's not. You see her taking it once or twice, but they never actually say like, "Oh, she's hooked on this stuff and it's dangerous." You just see her once or twice taking some pills, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. I just remembered the neurons, the synapses when they were shown how they fire. It was just like little bolts of electricity. No, the synapses don't fire like that. That's not how they work. They release neurotransmitters. I'm sorry, I'm still raging over it. I was raging over it in work today. And
flashback scene. Her ex-husband cheated on her and even eyed up in the most obvious way, eyed up a woman while they were getting married.
Yeah.
I think the only way he
this movie
the most
is
unsubtle way ever.
The only way he could have made it. The only way he could have made it blatantly more obvious he was into another woman is if he just ran across the church floor and just started shagging the woman on the church floor, I think. And then she goes to this wedding, and then I have no idea I'll just describe what happens because I don't know what any of it meant. They start going on about the hippocampus and your brain chemistry. We get some animations of brain chemicals getting drunk. She gets drunk. She wakes up the next day, and then she starts drawing on herself, has a bath, and then it ends there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of seems to end quite abruptly. It drags on and on and on and on and on and on and on for hours, and then suddenly stops, and you're left going, "What?"
Yeah, because I thought, like, once after she'd drawn on herself, you would see her, she would get into her life, and her life would just be fantastic from there on in.
Yeah, but the whole film it seemed like the guy who wrote it had ADHD, because he's constantly going from thing to thing, unrelated, going, this thing, no, this thing, no, this thing. And then suddenly after 2 hours goes, I'm bored now.
Yeah,
and stops.
Well, I say, my theory is that narrative part was made separately, and the guy who made it ran out of money, and then the makers of the New Age guys said, we'll complete the film for you, and they insert...
But I didn't even think that was good.
Yeah. So that's that's Marty's very quick.
No, I thought it was shit.
Yeah, Ziller.
Oh God. Even at the time, I suppose the effects at the time it came out were probably fun to look at, but
probably like for
that's about it.
For probably like a low budget documentary at the time, like the CGI and the special effects and the animations they used was pretty incredible. They pulled that off on what I think would have been a meager budget.
Yeah, but that's about it. And there wasn't a lot to the style, but considering there was nothing to the substance, that's about all I can say.
Yeah. And Kutch.
It was I suppose if I were to give it something, it had Barry Kripke before, he was Barry in The Big Bang Theory. That's got to be something, right? Yeah. And also, it was technically a movie, so it did get the fact that it was. Although everything in the movie was crap.
Yeah,
it was actually a movie.
Yeah. So
and I also must add, I have to add, and it was not Batman and Robin.
But yeah,
or The Room.
Yeah, I'd probably say the same. At the production values were quite decent on it. It was quite well presented that way. But I think we can sort of go through the movie in pieces, and welcome everyone to a brand new Trolling with Logic. This week we're just doing a follow-up and reaction and sort of review to what we endured last week, the What the Bleep Do We Know alleged documentary. And with me this week, it's pretty much the same team, but I'll introduce them anyway. Marty, how's it going?
I'm doing okay.
Ziller, how are you doing?
Cool.
And Kutch.
I'm still in shock of what I just witnessed last week.
I say, well, we've had a good week. We've gone away. We've gotten very, very drunk, probably. The hangovers are now cleared. So I think we can just, kind of maybe sit back, just reflect on what we thought of that film instead of reacting to it. So I think what we'll do here, is we'll start off by talking about what was actually good in this film, the good parts. I know you're probably not, but I think it's fair just to do that before we get into the meat of what we'll probably be discussing. So I'll just go right out. Marty, I'll start with you. If you remember what the good things about this film were.
It ended? No. Well, I mean, it's... No, not much. Really.
No, nothing at all.
It's just a bunch of bullshit.
There's no redeeming qualities to this whatsoever in your view.
Maybe if you look at it as a movie and the whole the narrative part.
I'll try and summarize how it actually goes. Right, we'll focus on the story part because this kind of became a mess. It started off kind of, you've got this deaf girl, she's a photographer, and she's not doing much at the start, but then she comes home after a day of work and she's got this crazy roommate, this stereotype new age roommate. And then the deaf girl, she sleeps in one day at work. She's late for work. She misses the subway train where in the subway they have this weird art presentation going on, and she gets a bit of fortune cookie wisdom by Quark from Star Trek. And it's, by the way, he's only in it. He only has one line, isn't it? It's just for one line, he says.
Yeah, pretty much.
And yeah,
Probably the creepiest line.
Yeah. So she's in the subway. She gets an angry call from her boss, get your ass into work. She walks to work. She stops at a basketball court where... Yeah, was that before the subway or is that after?
I think it was before.
That's, before.
Yeah, she gets a lesson. It's an entanglement that kid was on about.
He was on about everything quantum mechanics doesn't actually say.
Yeah. So she gets a lecture by a little kid who's basically a mini Morpheus. He actually rips off some of Morpheus's lines. She gets into work. Her boss is angry with her. He orders her to go photograph a wedding when she won't do weddings because we get in a